My background, I'm actually like basically this guy's twin. Also from Australia. This guy was at BCG, I was at Bain. He was at FTX, I was at Coinbase. So basically, like finally we're on the same team. Finally.
Hey friends, welcome to Smart Venture Podcast, the best information for future CEOs. Starting a company is easy, but growing and managing it is hard. In this podcast, we sit down with the best founders, experienced leaders, and investors in tech and relevant space to give you the best tips to grow your company and grow yourself. Some of our most popular episodes are about crypto founders and investors. If you like it, don't forget to subscribe and give it a 5-star. This episode is brought to you by Momento NFT. Momento NFT is a direct-to-fan social NFT app that allows fans to own viral moments from their favorite creators and unlock perks like meet and greets, autographed merchandise, and more. As a creator, you can easily create valuable images and video NFTs of your best social content. And as a fan, you can own viral moments from your favorite creators and unlock perks like meet and greets. Momento NFT is backed by Animoca brand, Cadenza, and Mark Pincus. Check out the app available on App Store and Google Play. To start the show, I would love to say hi to Jack and Zhuoxun. Thank you guys so much for coming on to the show today. For us to get started, I would love for you guys to share with us your founder story. You're all are from Australia, and tell us more about how you guys started, and then how you guys started at founding Magic Eden, which is one of the top company in crypto in NFT. Over 90% of Solana NFTs are transacted on Magic Eden, by the way.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, thanks for having us on, Grace. Very Aussie good day to anyone who's watching this live. Yeah, I'm Jack, co-founder of Magic Eden. My other co-founder, Zhuoxun. I'll kick it off real quick and let my co-founder speak as well. So founder story on the outside, like we've launched Magic Eden 7 months ago. In that time, been super lucky to have reached 95% market share on the Solana blockchain, which is a new blockchain that allows developers to build new blockchain apps, and it's one where it's been known to be super fast, really cheap to transact on, and something where you can build a really nice, snappy consumer product experience. So we launched about 7 months ago. Now we're the second largest NFT marketplace in the world across chains, just behind OpenSea, and we're the biggest on Solana. My story real quick. Before this, I worked at FTX, which is a crypto exchange. I moved out of the Bay Area to Hong Kong to work for that exchange. And they were known as very big early supporters of Solana and the blockchain ecosystem here. So managed to see a lot of growth and exciting developments on this blockchain, and decided to kind of throw my hat in the ring and start something here. And then before that, I was doing product management at Google in the Bay Area. And I think to tie those two experiences together with Magic Eden, the story is a little bit always wanted to start something, but never thought that we could have an edge starting something in crypto, because so many things in crypto are very finance related. It's about building exchanges, building DeFi, building trading shops. But when NFTs this thing kicked off, I really felt like crypto going consumer and going mainstream, and I felt like that was a pretty happy convergence of not only my own experience of doing product management in an internet company, but also working in a crypto exchange like FTX. And then, Zhuoxun, not just my experience, but actually a lot of our co-founders' experience is very similar, very synergistic with opportunity. So I think that's why we swallowed up to do this.
Yeah. And just for everyone, we have 2 other co-founders too. So there's 4 of us. My background, I'm actually basically this guy's twin. Also from Australia. This guy was at BCG, I was at Bain. He was at FTX, I was at Coinbase. So finally we're on the same team. Finally. Just took a long time for us to figure it out.
That's right.
No, but I've been building in crypto for a while as well. Was at Coinbase as a product manager. And then before that was early employee at dYdX, which is the largest decentralized exchange on Ethereum. Yeah, I think some of the reasons that we kind of got started was, we were dabbling ourselves in a lot of crypto products and felt that obviously NFTs being a core primitive for a lot of different things in the future. So we felt that it would probably power, number one, a bunch of social community experiences, gaming experiences, and the way that users would experience those things would be should be really different to what we're used to today. And we felt that as a marketplace, there was a huge opportunity to innovate and build something for those use cases. And then I think secondly, we, like most people who have gotten into NFTs, I think we just found it to be a really, really fun and exciting, interesting space. And, I think that has still held pretty true after the last 6 months. And yeah, as a marketplace, we strive to kind of fulfill a few different things. Number one is that for those of you that have used Magic Eden, you'll see that it's like hopefully a much more immersive experience. It's like you land there, you can kind of see a lot of really interesting things going on. The discoverability is a really, really critical thing for us. And, I think Solana being a really performant chain has allowed us to expand our marketplace alongside just the huge creator base that's coming from all parts. So yeah, that's sort of how we got started. And it's been a pretty crazy 6-7 months since then.
Yeah, totally. It definitely, like, you guys collectively probably work at all the big exchange or like top platforms. What are some takeaways that like you feel like working at these exchanges that kind of like you've learned that you will implement into Magic Eden?
It's just not just for both of our experience, but also our two other co-founders, so Sydney and Rex. So Sid is our CTO and Rex is our chief engineer who does a lot of the smart contract work. So both of them, they came from large consumer internet marketplaces. So they were early engineers at Uber Eats and Uber. For example, Sid was like engineer number 2 at Uber Eats, and he was there when the marketplace was a design file, and he left when the marketplace was doing like 30 billion in GMV. So I think the four of us, we came together where, Zhuoxun and I had some really good intuition about how to like build trading liquidity, like from our experiences in exchanges. And NFT marketplace really shares that property and that characteristic with exchanges. It's all about like liquidity and exchangeability of the assets. On the other side, like our two other co-founders, they knew which product features to build from a marketplace perspective, right? How do you have discoverability? How do you match supply and demand to reach equilibrium? So I think those two things naturally like really helped the four of us play to our strengths in some ways.
Yeah, I think maybe the other principle is we're a very product-driven company. And I think the thing that Coinbase did really well is they built just like really nice, beautiful, easy to use experiences. And I think to some degree we think that's really important, both in terms of onboarding new users to come in to use these products, but also even just crypto native people. Everyone wants delightful experiences, and we strive to build the nicest, best, slickest consumer products. And then the other thing I'll say from my experience at dYdX is that like great companies take a long time to build, and you go through cycles, right? Like when we started at dYdX, for example, it was probably nearing the end of the last cycle, and then there was like a very long period of crypto winter, which then born out of that was like a huge DeFi wave, which obviously dYdX is what at the forefront of. And I feel similarly now in that like we've gone through a really amazing cycle where NFTs have grown massively, but these things take years and sometimes decades to build. So we're here for the long haul kind of thing. We're really excited.
So I took notes on like some of your past like chats with other like podcasts or like other media. So one of the takeaway I feel like is you guys mentioned one of your major product theory is like don't do things like Web 2 because you're building a company in Web 3. So what does it mean to build a company in Web 3? And what is the difference between like building a Web 2 company versus Web 3?
I think there's a couple of points there. I think like number one, it comes from a spirit of saying, hey, like we think Web 3 is a completely new technological paradigm, and like the new primitive, right? And one of the reasons that we picked to build on Solana is we thought, hey, there's this new primitive, and we are not even sure all of the innovation that could be born from this new building block that's emerged. And I think therefore this like Web 3 over Web 2 ethos belief is to say, hey, we would love to lean into the future and like the unknown innovations that could happen, right? So some of the new, small, emerging behaviors that we see today, we think those things could become huge, and we want to lean into those rather than maybe take some of the old things that we knew that worked in the Web 2 world and just like copy and paste it into Web 3. So I think that's the spirit of it. And then the other thing that's super interesting for us would be like this concept of like, community over centralization, where that's a really core ethos and a core belief in kind of Web3 movement, right? And what community over centralization really means is, hey, we want to establish a two-way dialogue and build that kind of relationship with our users. We want to have our users be able to participate in some of the big product decisions or platform policies that we make. And this way we really bond, right, with our users. And one of the examples of that would be, we started this DAO, which is a kind of a Web3 social network type of thing. And then the DAO gets to vote on like what goes on the front page of Magic Eden. And later on, we'll have different ways of rewarding the users through that DAO. And I think that is like, if you think about it in like a Web 2 world, that feels like a social network or like a social group. But the Web3 way of doing it is like leaning into these new concepts, new entities like DAOs and so on, and playing along, right? And but yeah, I don't know if you want to add any more.
No, I think that sums it up pretty well. I think the biggest point I think is more around like building more of an open platform and building directly kind of in line with the community. And I think those things are things that like you didn't really see that strong of a emphasis on in Web 2, but is kind of a core focus. I mean, you see us out there in front of the community all the time. We are very much at their service, and we're very, very present on Twitter, Discord, all these different forums where the community can come and chat with us and engage with us. And that's like going to be a huge part of our philosophy in whatever we build in the future as well.
Yeah, I think I'll give an example of that. Like recently, we hosted one of the headline events at NFT LA. So LA had one of these big NFT conferences, and we had like Waka Flocka and Quavo, Migos there, and it was getting really lit. It was like kind of a really lit party.
I was there. I'm like literally in like an NFT LA shirt.
Oh, were you there? That's amazing. Yeah. And then the Magic DAO, like our DAO, was sponsoring the event, right? And then therefore it meant like the members of our DAO could go and participate in this event and really like feel this way of like, wow, like this technology is impacting me and like benefiting me in this like really tangible kind of way, right? So but we did that through the DAO, right? Through this like very Web3 kind of social entity. So yeah.
Quick question on that. So like when people are starting a DAO, like I feel like okay, so there's two parts of the question. One part of the question, like I believe OpenSea started doing Solana based NFTs this week, right? Like what is your strategy or like I guess roadmap like for competing in this space, since like there's like many other big platforms that are tapping into it? And like what do you see as like Magic Eden's secret sauce to kind of like win in that space? And number two is like there's like a lot of like discussion on like centralization or decentralization. Since like DAO exists, like why do people still raising venture capital, right? I guess like since we're building Web3 companies, like why the Web 2 kind of way to fundraising still exist?
Oh man, well, like we can't be leaking too much alpha. That's the first thing. I think I would categorize kind of launching on a new chain as almost like launching in a new country, right? Ecosystems are like nation states. Is one of our investors, Avichal, kind of talks about this a lot, who we really respect. And we think that's really true. And I think in general, we've done a lot of thinking, a lot of community engagement. We understand the Solana ecosystem really well. And today, this is our core focus. And I think that matters quite a bit when you're looking to enter the space and like win market share or something, right? So kind of a pretty general point, but I think that's a very, very important point as you think about competing players and how they're going to win. I think more broadly, it's kind of all the stuff that we had talked about up front around how we think about marketplaces and how we think about what's important for a marketplace. I think none of these things are particularly surprising, but it's like, we think it's really important to be creator first. It's really important to give end users the things they're looking for when they're trying to discover and buy and sell NFTs. And we think really deeply about these features. Yeah, I think on the fundraising point, yeah, there's definitely options now in terms of how teams and projects want to get started. I think for us, we went down the venture path because we felt like it was really valuable to bring on partners who kind of share the same long-term vision that we do. And like that's important because these types of things take a long time to build. And there's the question around DAO versus VC is not the only sort of lens to look at it. The other lens is also the degree of centralization, decentralization. And I think over time, yeah, it would be really cool. And we've seen this sort of start to happen across DeFi for decentralization to take place. But I still think it's really, really challenging. And for us, like we're here to build, a company and solving, that piece and solving decentralization. I think they could be related, but they're also very different things. And I think first and foremost, we're here to build a company. And the reason we brought on investors and VCs is because we wanted partners who were aligned for the long term. So like, yeah, our Series A was like, I guess we announced it quite recently. We did it back in December, but it was like Paradigm, Sequoia, Electric, Greylock, Kindred. So like some really good investors that like kind of see the world the same way that we do.
Yeah, totally. Two questions on that. So one is, what do you think makes a marketplace great? Because another layer on that is like you guys pick Solana. So from my understanding, from a business standpoint, it's because of Solana is like I guess like a lot of apps could be built on Solana as well as like it's really cheap. Like, and what are like why do you guys pick Solana? Why are you guys so bullish? Since like Magic Eden's like the core, like basically core product is like primarily focused on Solana, not like every other platform they're just launching on. Basically, essentially, I probably see it launching on every chain or something. Like, why do you guys so focus on that? And then what makes a good marketplace?
It was a very, very, very intentional choice. I think, initially it was because, Jack was working at FTX and we started to get really familiar with the Solana ecosystem through him. And then we had also started to use a bunch of Solana-based applications. And I mean, I don't know, for those of you that were using Ethereum quite a lot and, I think people are talking about this now, like the fees and stuff, but it wasn't a very nice experience. And then when you started to use Solana, we were like, man, that actually feels pretty nice, pretty delightful. So that was like the first thing. And then I think there's actually some pretty fundamental, like structural reasons why we decided as well. And people talk about, fast and cheap transactions, but the reason that's important and the implication of that is that it allows more users and more creators to come and try stuff on the chain. So it's like a willingness to experiment is higher when the cost of experimentation the cost of transactions is lower. Right? And what is that? If you play that out sort of downstream, it means that there's more creators, more users, and more creators are trying out and building new use cases. And then as a marketplace, we're here to support those use cases, right? And I think Solana's done a great job, and that thesis has played out over the last 6 months. But I think we would all acknowledge that I think we're definitely in a multi-chain world, and will increasingly be in a multi-chain world. Not just, I think it's very unlikely that there'll just be a single chain that will dominate everything, at least not for a while. So we're very pragmatic in the way we think, which is like we want to go where the users are, go where the use cases are. And today that's playing out on Solana, but I think conceivably it could be in many other places too.
There's a couple of things that we thought maybe a little differently about this whole marketplace thing. Like one of the things that we think about is like, how do we give value to the user before they even buy anything, like without them having to buy anything? And if you think about like the paradigm of marketplaces for like just like since time eternal, it's a marketplace is the place where you go buy something, then you take it home, and then you get to experience the value of the thing that you bought, right? But we really flip that concept on its head, which is you can come to Magic Eden, you don't have to buy anything. You can just be inspired by the culture of NFTs and experience the value maybe of what NFTs can give you before you even do anything. And then if you're inspired and so convinced, then you should buy something. So to that, and like we're pretty proud to say we're the first marketplace to have like immersive games and immersive content in the marketplace itself. So if you go on Magic Eden, you'd be able to click into Eden Games and see that like there's a whole bunch of places where you can actually play the NFT game itself, right? Experience. And if you like what you see, then you can go and buy the NFT and then participate more deeply in that experience. And I think like the second point around a marketplace is Magic Eden, we pride ourselves on like moving really fast and being the first to experiment with a bunch of stuff. And this is really echoing like what Zhuoxun was saying around, hey, Solana is a place where the cost of experimentation is really low. So for Magic Eden, we're the first marketplace to start white labeling our marketplaces in other apps. So we put Magic Eden in other major consumer apps where they had a lot of user flow. We were the first marketplace to use NFTs as this sports bracket to really explore like, hey, buying an NFT means that you support your sports team in this tournament. And we did that with the March Madness operators overtime recently, which was amazing. We were the first marketplace on Solana to really like partner with some really famous like celebrities like Shaquille O'Neal. So like Shaq was on this like Twitter space doing trading on Magic Eden, and then he changed his name to Shaq.Sol, which we thought was like extremely hype. And then like just like most recently, where we launched Eden Games, which is our like immersive game experience, gaming marketplace experience, and we've been able to capture 92% market share of all gaming NFTs on Solana. So us moving fast and being experimental and doing a bunch of these first, I think is pretty important to us as a way of positioning ourselves as a market leader on Solana.
So you mentioned about the immersive game, right? Like, so I think gaming is just one piece of the NFT experience because you can, buy a really sharp weapon in your game. So you're basically going to win faster or something. And then in the middle, there's like the utility piece, right? Like we see a lot of Ethereum based NFTs are really focusing on like, opening some restaurants or like basically, or like going to a conference with a bunch of celebrities in it. Like, so there's like a utility piece. And then the third one is like, so far it's like the art piece, which is, I feel like I personally found it a little bit of like a stretch because I like Mona Lisa, but I actually don't want to own a piece. Like it's great, but like I'm fine with not having one. So curious, like when you guys are thinking about the future of NFTs, like how do you imagine it will become like more mainstream in a way?
Yeah, I mean, I think to some degree it's very difficult to predict, right? I think it's very clear what has gotten product market fit up to now. It's community-based PFPs, it's artwork, sort of like unique digital artwork. And then I think gaming is just sort of beginning now. We're seeing a very early wave of like browser-based games that are coming to market. And I guess that's what you probably see or have noticed when you land on Eden Games on Magic Eden. But that's going to change too. Like over the next, I think 24 months, there's been many game developers that are coming into the space now, getting funded now, and it'll take them some time to build their game, right? But we're really excited about that ecosystem because, all it takes is kind of one developer, one game studio, to kind of pivot on a dime and then be able to create something that becomes, something huge. So I think that there's a ton of potential there. I think, on the utility side, I think there's a lot that is yet to be experimented with. Like obviously ticketing is like a really big use case. We're going to be experimenting with that, even just at Magic Eden through events that we run in real life and events that we run with the Magic DAO. We created an NFT called the Magic Ticket for that kind of intent specifically. And then, I think one of the interesting things that we are experimenting with now is like, is this like sports as a category? So utilizing an NFT's metadata to embed a bunch of information in there, and then allowing users to make decisions, act upon that in a way that is casual and fun. The other thing I've seen that's pretty interesting on Ethereum for the most part is like projects that are creating kind of storylines with NFTs attached to it, which I think is really cool. It's almost like a choose your own, like the people with it get the ability to kind of like choose your own adventure. I think like Stapleverse is like the really cool example there. Shout out to Steve Zhang and Benny Huang. So yeah, I think we're still very, very early in all of this, and we'll, as I said, like as a platform, we're not sort of in the business of creating the content necessarily to support the use cases. So as like things like music and other stuff proliferate, I think we're pretty excited to support them.
When it comes to like winning the platform game, so like I feel like when I see all these different marketplaces, I feel like marketing plays a huge part, or like partnerships plays a huge part. Like I just see different crypto companies partnering with like different sports. Like, why is that? I totally understand. Like, sports has a lot of like, I guess like this is how you onboard the normies. Like, basically, essentially, that's like the case. But like, besides like being really aggressive on partnership with like sports team, like what are some other ways to grow as a platform? And do you feel like it's what makes like a marketplace successful, like especially in the crypto game? Do you think it's like just like I would say 50-80% are based on the partnerships? Like how do a platform differentiate themselves like when it comes to go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, number one, I think like partnerships is pretty important in crypto in general, because the space is expanding so fast and everyone is kind of like staking out like something that they want to have a superpower that and be extremely good at. So in general, like we're like very partnerships oriented company, right? Like we partner with like Shaq with his like Astrals project from like a content creation perspective, but we also partner with other like crypto companies and service providers in the space. So for example, we partner with like Moonrank and HowRank for rarity, which is like a pretty statistical measure in NFTs, and we don't really want to have to build everything ourselves. It's a really nice way to like showcase someone else's hard work, but also like give the benefit of that to Magic Eden's users. I think like around like partnership to grow and like go to market in general, like our perspective has been that like you want to get two things right. There's like no, I think like one silver bullet that's going to get you all of the way there. So for us, like first and foremost is listening to what the community wants and building a really great product, right? And in general, I think the community's like perception of Magic Eden is that we move really fast and we listen to what the community says and we iterate really, really fast. And a lot of our features have come from that like iteration. The second thing is like really great service to our partners is really important. So like we think really hard about like, hey, for partners who we have like great relationships with and want to build great relationships with, we want to set up this culture of service and like helping like mutually grow together, right? We help them grow and they help us grow. We've got a couple of pretty key examples of that, like Faraway, which is one of the biggest crypto games in the space, but also a couple of other partners who have been fortunate enough to partner with.
Yeah, totally. How do you decide like what to build? Like you mentioned that you would listen a lot from what the user have to say, right? Like but I bet the user is gonna tell you everything, like, every day I hear like suggestion for my podcast. I'm curious, like how do you decide like what to listen, and what are some features that you kind of build based on like what they have said?
Yeah, I think like, to be honest, like no magic sauce, just listening and just starting a conversation, right? Like actually we sent out a tweet yesterday that said, hey, what like top features do you want to see in Magic? And then like some of the key ones were like like these like power listing features, like being able to list multiple things at the same time, and then we just try to ship them like really, really fast, right? So the good thing about crypto is it's like your marketplace is on Twitter, right? It's it's already in the metaverse, like in some ways, and the users are pretty loud and vocal about it. On the creator side, it's also pretty straightforward because we try to have deep, like one-to-one, like white glove kind of relationships with those creators. So we try to listen really hard to exactly what the upcoming meta game is in the NFT space, and then think a little bit about, hey, like how many people have been saying this is the top requested feature, and we try to deliver that pretty fast. I don't know if you want to add anything there.
Just whoever's screaming the loudest on Twitter. No, I think it's the same sort of principles of like any tech company, right? Like we have obviously an internal list of things that we also feel like are really important, and then the community has a bunch of things that they're requesting, and it's just a matter of balancing all that stuff. I will say that, like, yeah, one thing that we've been doing a lot lately is just releasing stuff that just make the end user sort of trading experience a lot better. So as an example, yesterday or 2 days ago, we shipped something that was like some better stats around activity history, right? So like prices over time, volume over time, the ability to kind of like toggle between different time frames. That kind of stuff may seem trivial, but it's like a really big quality of life feature that the community really, really likes, right? And yeah, I think it's just about balancing those kinds of things with really, really large roadmap items that we have internally. And not everything necessarily is end user facing, right? We also have to build a bunch of underlying infrastructure and things like unsexy stuff, but that stuff is equally as important. So yeah, just a matter of going through the prioritization. There's no sort of silver bullet here.
Totally. How do you attract like the best creator or like and keeping them on top of the platform?
Maybe I'll start with how do you bring them in? Yeah, I think there's a few different pieces with this. One is obviously making sure that we are in the conversation when they are deciding to do something with NFTs. Number two is making it as easy as possible for a creator to come and do something, right? And that's like a product problem. So like the first thing is like a partnerships BD problem. The second part is a product problem. And this is why we have been building a bunch of things on the creator side, which is, we have a Magic Eden launchpad that allows a creator to, set up a mint on Magic Eden directly. We have a creator portal, which is if you're looking to list a collection, you can go through the portal. It's a very, very easy, simple flow. And then, I think working with creators is a very unique thing because what they are looking for is what is the best way to reach my kind of audience, right? And they may have different goals. Different creators have different goals. So for us, it's just a matter of what's the best way to match these creators with the audience that they're looking for, right? Kind of how we think about it. And we feel like on Magic Eden now we have a lot of users. We have, I think 500,000 to 1 million users, right? So that's pretty exciting. It means that we have a very, very highly engaged audience that creators can come and interact with and do things with. And our job is to make sure that we can bring creators on easily. We can introduce them to an audience that is like a crypto native Web3 audience, but also do it in a way that that melds really nicely with their existing audience, right? And this is true for whether they're coming from a gaming standpoint, an entertainment standpoint, music, maybe they're already crypto native, that's fine too. But the underlying principle is the same. It's kind of like making it easy as possible and helping them reach the audience that they're trying to reach.
Totally. What are some criteria that you use to select what projects goes onto Magic Eden? And what do you think, what are some kind of project that are, you feel like you identify what are some characters that could be succeed in Magic Eden? Do they have to have built-in audience? Do they have to bring like, let's say 10K of their fans onto, the DAO or something?
Yeah, I think there's like a difference between like the primary, like the launchpad product that we have tends to be like extremely oversubscribed versus like the secondary, which is like the core marketplace experience that we have.
Mhm.
I think on the core marketplace experience, which is generally like just bigger and more like generally a more used part of the product experience, our philosophies tend to be more open, right? And this goes back to like Web3 over Web2, like that kind of product philosophy we have. And really, this is around like, hey, as long as it's within our content guidelines, and we do publish some content guidelines on a blog around, hey, being respectful, no hateful content and stuff. As long as the content is within those bounds, we prefer to be as open as possible because we want to support this new next generation creator economy that's being born out of NFTs. And that's kind of a philosophical point for us. We want to support as many of these creators as possible, as long as like it falls within the bounds of our content guidelines. Like on the Launchpad specifically, that's where like we try to only do a few a week so that we are showcasing the very best creators and then really launching them on Magic Eden. So along that's a little bit more selective in terms of, hey, this project should have pretty clear roadmap, pretty clear utility. They need to have already some signals of, community appreciation, community validation, so that we could really make sure that Magic Eden users are getting exposed to the best projects every week.
Totally. What is like a typical user profile of the app? Like, I guess like how old they are, where are they located, and why are they building this like NFT project?
Like for a creator?
I guess like for your platform, like what is like a typical user profile? As a creator, and then maybe as a buyer too. Just curious.
Creators are very varied, right? I think that's very diverse, and I think that's the beauty of NFTs, the fact that it's so relatable to so many different types of people. I think that's what makes it such an exciting space to be. So I'll give you the full spectrum actually. It goes from like the most famous like entertainment celebrities who want to do something in NFTs. So recently we partnered with like Steve Aoki for his like, and Todd McFarlane, who was who's like a Marvel comic book author. And they had this NFT collection called Sponoki, and it's really about heroing, like comic artists and their works, right? And it was heroed by Steve Aoki, like a really famous DJ. And on the other side of the spectrum, we had like Belugis, which was a very grassroots collection started by a 14-year-old girl who really cares about like Belugis and sea marine life conservation. And we started this project. We were the platform that launched her, and her story was just amazing. It was so humbling and so touching. It was all over like CNBC and Yahoo Finance for like a couple of days. And really like it goes all the way from like, major celebrities, major entertainment professionals that like, a kid with a cause and a mission and a belief, and we're actually very proud to be able to serve all of them. So that's on the creator side. I can talk a little bit about the buyer side, but actually I think the diversity is actually what's amazing for NFT creators, and we feel very, very, very privileged to be able to support them.
Totally. So as you mentioned, there's like a really diverse set of creators. I believe I read a status somewhere. It was only 2% of NFT actually makes money. What does the 2% NFT have in common?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel that for us, I don't know. I don't know if that really applies to Magic Eden. So I personally don't have any special insights to comment there. But a couple of things that we find pretty interesting from a Magic Eden perspective, which is, number one, I think we will be one of the most liquid marketplaces in the world. So 40% of all of our NFTs get sold within the first hour.
Oh, wow.
So this is like extremely, extremely liquid. And then for us, like we serve over probably like 8,000 collections now by this point. But we don't have, so we do have like some kind of distribution curve where like probably the top 800, 900 collections account for 30-40% of our trading volume. But at the same time, this top 800, 900, it changes all the time. So there is a really high degree of change. So in that sense, we're pretty proud to have a platform where a lot of creators are having a chance effectively. So I think that's we don't know the specific stats about like exactly what the point that you were talking about, but yeah, we're pretty proud of the liquidity and the opportunity that we're able to bring on Magic Eden for our creators.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, I'll end it with a 1-minute fire round for both of you. So first of all, like, what's your content diet to educate yourself in the space?
Say something smart.
I've got nothing for you yet. I think it's a combination of listening to people on our team and being on Twitter.
Yeah.
Who would you invite to your dinner party?
Oh, interesting. I would invite.
Man, I don't know, Elon, if I could
Oh,
have anyone.
that's a really
God,
good
he's the most popular dinner guest on
Yeah.
this podcast.
Ask him how
That's
much
quite good.
Shiba Inu bags he has.
That's quite good.
Okay, who made the biggest impact in your career?
My parents had a pretty big impact actually. Just being supportive. Saying, hey, it's cool. Take a crack at at your dreams. It's pretty important. Pretty important to hear like when you're about to jump into like a wild, wild west that's crypto and NFTs.
Yeah, I think for me, probably one of the managers I had when I was working at Bain, and then also the founder of a startup I used to work at, Nimble, and then also the founder of dYdX. I think those three have been pretty instrumental in how I've thought about like startups and wanting to start my own thing.
Last question. Where can we find you outside of work?
Oh, I love going for a walk actually on Sunday morning with my wife. Actually, personally, I think that's really helps to like clear the mind, settle down, and also just get the weekend started. Yeah.
I'm going to be starting to play weekly pickleball.
What is pickleball?
It's look it up. It's very, very fun. But I'll be playing in San Francisco
Pickle?
every Wednesday going forward.
Oh, nice.
I'll see you guys at the pickleball court.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out. Have a wonderful day.